The Spider-Lair is over 7 years old now. It's so old that it was the first Spider-Man VR game to have multiplayer, but despite that, it seems to have aged in reverse. I started covering its numerous updates about 3-ish years into its life, but I believe the newest one, Spider-Lair Remix, just set the tone for the future of this subgenre, or it did about 3 months ago. I'm kinda late to this whole thing. In the tutorial, we can get a glimpse at some of the key changes. You now have the option to perform what's called a button zip, a much simpler version of the physics-based web zips most Spider-Man VR games utilize. But being simpler doesn't mean they suck. While certainly less immersive, they're a lot more accessible for players with lower mobility, and since the direction you zip in is head-based in the lair, you might find a button press more intuitive than traditional fizz zips. If you don't feel like zipping at all though, consider this. First fire a web at a decent length, then use your opposite hand with the same input you use to fire. Grabbing and manipulating your webs while swinging comes with a bevy of applications, like avoiding obstacles in midair. I think Untangled lets you do this as well, but I'm not sure if it has the same effect. Either way, both versions of the mechanic are a stone's throw away from their natural conclusions, being able to fully climb your webs while you swing. I really hope we get to see this someday, it'd be so cool. But here's something I never thought I'd see again.
That's so sick, dude. I mean, I feel like the last time someone did a feature like this was the Silkworm, if I'm not incorrect.
Yeah, the only other Spider-Man VR game that has done something remotely similar to this is the Silkworm. But the Lair one-ups that game because you can actually walk on these web bridges, or hang underneath them like monkey bars. If this game ever added stealth missions, like in Battle Glide, then web bridges would make a perfect match. Imagine making your own network of them, cocooning knocked out enemies and prowling upon others. Something else the Lair now has in common with the Silkworm is retractable webs. Using the right thumbstick, you can dynamically adjust the length of your web lines after they're shot. The main application for this is generating swinging momentum by retracting them, but in combination with the new Acrobatics 3.0 system, you can recreate Spider-Man's iconic upside down pose. Bronx literally added a steadying ability to help you do this easier. That's not all the new Acrobatics system offers though. This form of the ability has been dubbed Free Flow Acrobatics. Traditionally, flipping in Spider-Man VR games was more or less a button press. Battle Glide's acrobatics are a good example of this. On the other hand, Free Flow gives you absolute control. If you want to rotate yourself just enough to lay on the floor, you can. And that also means you can wall run with your view perpendicularly shifted. That doesn't come without problems though. Stopping dead stick to rotate yourself is a bit annoying. With that said, I didn't have any problems with this next ability, and I think it might be the best implementation of it in any Spider-Man VR game. Web Wings 2.0.
Oh, this is so dope. You guys cooked. Oh no.
I loved this. The view shifting I disliked previously has now been made a toggleable option, and the wings themselves are just far easier to activate. No more doing a front flip and holding the grip buttons. Just hold both triggers, press jump, and release. Gliding is now a movement mode instead of an ability, and in combination with free flow acrobatics, you have unparalleled control. Nowhere else in this subgenre can you do barrel rolls, loop-de-loops, and corkscrews. It's amazing. Every single Spider-Man VR dev should be taking notes of this. Now, before we get into the big new thing this update adds, I need to tell you about a discovery I made. It concerns this innocuous new setting.
Oh, no way you can do that. That's so cool. Thank you for doing this. Oh, that's so cool.
This option lets you change the spot your webs fire from. And while that doesn't sound like a big deal on the surface, it lets you do something insane that no other Spider-Man VR game can do. Opening VRChat to play this update, I was surprised to see hand tracking support had been added. But obviously, that doesn't automatically mean every single world is playable with it. Such was the case with the Lair. After a series of tweaks though, I was able to make the game fully playable with hand tracking. Here's how to do it. Use your controllers to enable your web shooters, and then set their position to the one you see on screen. Next, adjust the fizz zip threshold to level 3, the sweet spot between not being able to zip and zipping when you don't want to. If you prefer, you can also use the button zips, activated through this pinching gesture. Put your controllers down, point your hand and ball a thumb-topped fist. A web should fling out, and from there you can swing to your heart's content. This is the power of having in-depth customization. Using your real hands to web swing is a completely different experience. You have to try it at some point. But after that, what is there to do in the Spider-Lair? Before this update, Bronx himself considered the lair a swinging simulator, but thanks to 2 new additions, it's become a full-on game. To the left in the lair's loft, you'll find a new screen, fitted with graphs, XP bars, and even achievements to unlock. The lair now has a progression system, but how do you level up? By swinging of course, but also by playing any of the 9 new mini-games. The first is the return of the Floor is Pizza, a scramble to survive a rising floor of molten hot pizza. It was removed a while ago, and I'll use the time between then and now to excuse why I'm so bad at it.
What's here? What is this? Oh no!
I was better at Delivery Rush, what might be the first ever Peter Parker VR game. It has you carefully deliver pizzas to locations around the city, making sure they don't go cold or explode under the weight of your superhero landings. I would have loved to see a variant of this minigame where you physically hold a pizza box, and so can only use one web shooter, like in Spider-Man 2. The final game in the Pizzaverse is Getaway Driver. Someone has flogged a pizza car, and it's your job to stop them, using an alternate firing mode on your web shooters. With the lair getting a traffic system soon, I could see this minigame being adapted as a petty crime, not unlike in Battleglide. Then you have Rocket Race, which is pretty self-explanatory. This one has 15 difficulty levels, and if you can somehow beat the final one, you might genuinely be Spider-Man. That alternate web bullet profile comes back in Alien Invasion, a classic shooting gallery with endless waves and power-ups. It's pretty simple, but it stands as the lair's first ever combat gameplay. And coming in with the lair's first ever horror gameplay is Asteroid Assault, where an intelligent flying boulder hunts you down, becoming faster and more cunning by the minute.
There's no music. Am I gonna get like Majora's Masked? Where is it? Oh Where is this fucking thing? Oh, it's there! Oh,
Basketball and tennis games B-Ball and B-Line were a bit more relaxing.
You know, I was only ever decent at tennis in GTA, so it feels nice to know that I'm actually okay at this. Never mind.
But real fishing was perhaps too relaxing. This fishing simulator apparently has more unique fish varieties than Red Dead Redemption 2, but I would have believed you if you told me it had none. I could not catch anything. And since I've never even been successful at fishing for compliments in the past, I don't doubt that's merely because of a skill issue. I think these mini-games, open world activities and progression systems are the next step in the Spider-Man VR subgenre. And with Bronx planning his eventual graduation from VRChat to make a Spider-Lair-like standalone game, we can only imagine what the future holds. If you don't not like Spider-Man VR games, you should subscribe. Just think about that one for a sec, put your thinking cap on.
Okay, I'll catch you later then.
All right then.